Parker Haines. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. When I was 22, I was sitting in a Fridays restaurant with my mother, and I had just recently moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we were having dinner, and she started talking about my roommates. She had met my roommate and my roommate's girlfriend, and she was making some comment about their relationship and whether or not they were girlfriends. And I said, yeah, they were together. I just felt compelled at that point in time to be like, and segue into, by the way, I also like women. We decided to eat in silence for the rest of the time, and then we went back to the hotel that she was staying at with my dad, and we were in the elevator, and before we got out, she said, don't tell your father. For the next, about 10 plus years, we never told my father. I always felt that we had this understanding that it would just be something it was okay, but we wouldn't talk too much about. I would bring home girlfriends for holidays, and we would stay in the same room. I always did notice little things, like if we sat next to each other on a couch, my dad would get up and leave. We never really talked about what made them uncomfortable or what made me uncomfortable. We just kind of existed. Our relationship was pretty strained throughout the years. I think that once my family started asking me if I was going to ever get married, and the conversation about whether or not it was legal, and yes, I'd love to get married, but it's not legal, when that would happen, I could always tell that my mom would get upset and weird and would never participate in the conversation. And that always made me feel bad. And then I started to scale back from holidays. I stopped putting myself in the place of feeling uncomfortable, putting myself in a place of not feeling welcomed in my own family. So I stopped showing up for Thanksgiving, stopped showing up for Christmas. And then when I did move to Chicago, I finally proposed to my now wife. I finally had a conversation with my mother about that. I told her that I was getting married, and then it was this blow up, this trickle effect of these past hurts, and that I was with someone for 6 years that she never knew the last name of. I think we said a lot of things to each other that really hurt. I don't remember who hung up on who, but someone hung up on each other, and then we didn't talk for months after. I didn't want anything to tarnish or to hurt or taint this new relationship, because I really was like, this is the one. I love this woman. I did do some check-ins with my father about whether or not they were going to come to the wedding, and he was trying to play mediator between us two and say, yes, they're going to come to the wedding. 2 weeks before the wedding, we had planned our rehearsal dinner, and so I got on the phone, I called my dad, and I was like, okay, so this is where this is going to be. And he was like, okay, I'm pretty sure we're going to be there. A little hesitancy, but I was like, okay, well, this is where it's going to be. This is what time it's going to be. I didn't really hear from them over that 2 weeks, and then the day before the wedding, I just wanted to check in to see what time they thought they were going to be there. I got married in Minneapolis. They lived in Brookings, South Dakota. It's a 4-hour drive. So I knew they'd be driving in. And I said, what time do you think you'll be driving in? And then he said, we're not going to make it after all. My heart broke, and all I said was, I understand, okay. I knew that if he could come himself, he would come, but I knew that he was just going to stand by her, and that he would feel badly if he left her at home. And I didn't want her to feel bad, and I didn't want him to feel bad. And I was all still caring about their feelings more than my feelings at that moment. And I hung up the phone, I cried a lot. The next day we tried to figure out, I made some phone calls to some friends to see who could walk me down the aisle since my dad was going to be there. My wife's stepmom and mother walked me down the aisle instead, which was pretty beautiful, that other moms showed up for me when my mom didn't. And it was a really great day. After realizing that my own parents didn't show up for the wedding, actually only one member of my family showed up to my wedding, that I realized that I had no reason to I no longer wanted to give this name that they gave me to my wife, nor did I want to keep it. We got married hyphenating our last names, and then we talked about just dropping the hyphen and me just taking my wife's last name. Then I was like, I would really like to change my whole name, so I changed my name to Parker. I picked Parker for a couple of reasons. One, my wife and I watched the movie The Life of Pi, and one of the main characters, the tiger's name is Richard Parker. It pretty much helps this boy across the sea and kind of saves him. And she looked at me after the movie with alligator tears in her eyes and said, "You're my Richard Parker." And so I used to, when we lived long distance away from each other and wrote each other letters, I always signed it, "Love, Richard Parker." So I changed my name to Parker for that reason, and also because it felt like it was a gender-neutral name. After feeling what it feels like to have people call me Parker, I feel like that also led me to realize that the gender identity that I had been living in as female was not right for me. It never really felt right. So I was able to kind of learn and pursue more of what that would look like of me not being female. And then I learned words like non-binary, and I was like, oh yeah, that one, that fits me. They, them pronouns, that fits me. I'm still learning what it means to be me and authentically me. But right now, it feels really good to be Parker. It feels really good to identify as a trans, non-binary human being. All of that, unfortunately stemmed from this heartbreak, but it really opened up this time to be me. I'm sad that I don't have a relationship with my parents or my mother, but I'm ecstatic that I'm me.